different customers, great. If creating multiple accounts helps you get other people to sign into the system to feed data into it, great. That's not a problem. And we suggest that you make accounts for people and accounts for companies separate. Don't have people sign into the account for your customer. Make an account for the customer and then make an account for the contact at the customer that they can sign in. I believe that's all that we had planned on talking about for Maxwell today. Anybody got any questions? The price today on tracks is $50 a month for 10 tracks. And those tracks are intended to be used for display watch, so you can keep an eye on monitors, how often they're calibrated, and every time they're calibrated, the profile gets uploaded into Maxwell for tracking. The tracks can also be used for hot folders, this measurement stuff for color measurements, and the intent is for what you might call pre-press level measurement volume. So, proofing targets on proofing systems or verification targets on non-proofing systems, that kind of idea. So does that mean you can't use it in a press room? No, it doesn't mean you can't use it in a press room, just to give you an idea. But if you want to send multiple IT8s into it all day long, that's not the pricing that will apply. But if you're going to measure press sheets occasionally, like you would measure proofs, and the sheets are really just a strip across the bottom or something like that, that's probably an acceptable volume. Part of the reason we chose to charge by track was because it's a direct relation to what our cost is. And it's a direct relation to what the customers, what you guys want. Instead of charging per seat or per whatever, these sort of arbitrary things, well, only 3 people can use the data. Why? This is a web-based system. If you want 1,000 people to log in and see the same report, go for it. That's not a problem. There are no startup fees for this. There are no cancellation fees for this. And we'll do our best to make sure the pricing fits what you're doing. So as I said, for monitors, we do have a number of companies who have a whole bunch of monitors they'd love to track, and we're working out to make sure that it makes sense from a pricing point of view, because it's a lower volume issue and all that kind of stuff. We also have customization options. If you want us to do something that's really specific to how you do things, or it's a big reprioritization, we weren't really planning on doing it for quite a while, you can pay to have that development reprioritized. But in many cases, when it comes to smaller stuff like writing a translator for a text file, we just want to hear from you. Get in touch with us and say, this is great. We want to use it here and here, but this is what we need. And then we'll see what we can do to get the bits and pieces in place in time to make sure it meets what you're doing. But something like supporting a different text file is not a difficult thing to do. Maxwell and these kinds of systems are sort of open-ended enough that we find it's best to start talking with people, realizing they don't necessarily know how to use it yet, but if they can get a chance to poke around with it and talk themselves, they'll get a whole bunch of ideas around it, and that's what we want to hear. So you can go in and create an account right now for free. You can create devices and tracks, and you can start uploading data into the tracks. We have a relatively informal system where we track what's coming in, and we keep an eye on it, and we'll get in touch with you and say, how's it going, and go from there. Start using it, play with it, and see what you can find out. And ColorShuttle communicates with Maxwell over the web protocols. So it uses the web ports, and it's basically like running a different browser on your computer. It's like downloading Firefox and running it instead. And if you download Firefox onto your system and you have to do a special configuration of proxy stuff, then that's the sort of thing we'll probably have to do in ColorShuttle. But if you have a corporate environment that's more secure, that kind of stuff, just realize that ColorShuttle uses normal web protocols, which makes life easier. And IT doesn't have to open up some weird ports to do all sorts of stuff. And also that we'll work with you on the proxy stuff to make sure we can get it working. When you centralize things outside of your network, as long as the security of that system is tight, there are some great advantages to exchanging information. If you buy a system that would do something like this kind of function, chances are you'd end up running it inside your network. And then you have to worry about how all of these different customers and people, either your people when they're outside of your building or your customers, get into that system. And it becomes a real IT management problem that you and your IT group don't like. But when it's centralized out into a single location out on the net, it makes it a lot easier because everybody is just browsing out when they talk to it. ColorShuttle browses out. Nothing comes in from Maxwell to talk to anything. That's not required. We don't want that kind of architecture. ColorShuttle or your web browser just browse out, and go through the normal things, and it's simple, and it makes it a lot easier for everyone. We manage the rights and privileges and the security within the Maxwell system, and by default we just chose to make everything private. It makes it a little more pain in the butt, but I'd rather have a little more pain in the butt with more security than the other way around. The color measurement record that we have within Maxwell is pretty comprehensive. If I show you an LCD display track, go into one of its measurements that Maxwell understands. You see the color patch here with the dotted line and the arrows going out. That means that Maxwell understands that this is an emissive color. This was measured from a monitor, or a light source of some sort, that kind of idea. If I go into another kind of track and I look at its measurements, you'll see it's a different kind of icon, and that's because Maxwell understands that this is a reflective color. You see it's got that kind of reflective arrow bouncing off something patch. There's spectral data involved. All of this stuff gets stored. If I specify that I want to measure into the ISIS, I think you can probably see this happening, and I say measure, you'll see in the bottom left corner there's UVI and UVX buttons here, and I can have them both pressed, or I can have one pressed. So ColorShuttle specifically is set up to take one measurement or the other, and the potential to take both. For tracks, we're not planning on allowing that option, because for tracks, in general, you will want one or the other. And in the future, we're going to get more and more of these kinds of preferences that you can set at the track level. So you could say, okay, into this track or into the reference set, whatever, I will only accept UV filtered measurements, or I will only accept non-UV filtered, or however you want to do it. And those preferences and the strictness of them will filter all the way down into ColorShuttle to the point where it might refuse someone's I1 because it's not the right kind of filter, or it will configure the ISIS one way or the other. It doesn't make sense to increase our data flow and all that sort of stuff and take dual mode, I call them dual band measurements, which is kind of stretching the term a little bit, but it works. We're not going to be taking dual band measurements for tracks, but we will be taking dual band measurements for profiling and other purposes, as well as paper evaluation and different things like that. Anyway, just to quickly give you a summary, this pass-fail print verification function is available for testing right now in Maxwell using ColorShuttle. If I show you the getting started stuff here as a quick review, there's a color valet profiling function that you can use with this software. Display watch, which is keeping an eye on the monitors. Right now it's not measuring the monitor explicitly, it's keeping an eye on the profile itself, and every time it's profiled, the profile gets uploaded into Maxwell automatically, and we use our profile interpretation technology to open it, extract measurement data, and infer or directly use the measurements for trending and that kind of stuff. There will be more work in that area in the future as well. Hot folders I showed you, and the print verification function I showed you. So by all means, please sign in, sign up, give it a test. We'd love to have your feedback on it. We've been working so hard on it. It's great to have it out in the field and have people hammering on it. If you have any sales questions about the pricing and that sort of stuff, Rick Hatmaker's by far the best guy to talk to about it. You can phone us at 866-CHROMiX, hit extension 1 and talk to Rick. You can phone us at that, 866-CHROMiX and hit my extension or Pat's to talk us about any of the technical side of it. If you do use ColorShuttle and you have problems or other kinds of feedback, go into the ColorShuttle link and click on feedback and support, and submit it that way if you can. If you use the email address in this feedback thing, that's the same as the one in your Maxwell account. They'll be linked together, and so from within the Maxwell account you can see your different feedback items that you put in there. Putting something in this way makes it so that it's on our to-do list forever. It will haunt us forever. There's a much greater chance of it actually being addressed and prioritized in. But we built Maxwell with color management people in mind, meaning people who manage other people's color. And so we're working to make it better for you and your customers all the way along. But thanks very much for your time, folks. We hope you get a chance to come test this and give it a try. Thanks for your time.